Hey folks, it's Steve Bird here with author Jeff Motes. Uh, we're going to talk about what's going on in his neck of the woods, and his books and his life and his outlook on the world as we see it today. And Jeff's a great guy. I've met him in real life before. I believe the first time we met was at Carolina Readiness Supply, and you were there signing books for, was it a Customer Appreciation Day?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just happened to have literally drove to a junkyard in South Carolina, and on the way back I heard, I think maybe as a Facebook post or something, somebody mentioned it. I was like, oh, I'm going to pop in there. But then since
Yeah,
then, since then we've been in a couple Heritage Life Skills and things like that. So good to see you again. So first off, tell us about yourself. Where do you find yourself in the world?
well, I'm in South Alabama. I'm originally from Louisiana. My mom was one of those coon asses from over there,
I ain't heard that
and
phrase in a while.
my dad's a redneck from Alabama, so I guess that makes me a red or something. Anyway,
I'm a redneck from southeast Kentucky, Harlan County, where the Justified show is based. So I'm right there with you. Probably share some DNA. You know how our people breed, right?
who knows? Who
but uh,
knows?
but so with all this craziness that's going on in the world today, what's it like in your neck of the woods right now? Are you seeing big changes? Are you guys on lockdown? Just what's your observations?
Well, the state of Alabama went on stay-at-home orders on Saturday. And I guess there's a lot of people are staying at home. There's still a lot of businesses open doing essential services. Our our work as electricians is considered essential service, so we're still open though. We don't have a lot of work going on right now. That's been kind of tough.
I had a concrete truck delivered the other day, or a delivery the other day to fill the posts for my solar array, and I asked that guy because they were essential. I asked him how it was affecting the business, and he said they were getting all small jobs like mine, no big construction projects. Is that kind of similar to what you're seeing?
Yes, all our big projects got put off, every one of them. So we're just doing small things, and if you got a big crew, small things don't hold a big crew.
Right.
There's just not enough of them. And I was talking with somebody. They were complaining about people going to the hardware store buying paint. They should have been home just buy the essentials. When I was trying to tell them the hardware store can't stay open if all they do is sell repair parts for a plumbing line.
Yeah, they would just shut down.
That's right. I mean, they
you
got,
know?
they got to sell something else.
Yeah, they got
So
to stay profitable. They got to be able to pay the people who are actually coming to work and risking the pandemic.
that's right.
But yeah, and I've heard people complain that I guess there's people wanting Walmart to not be allowed to sell anything but food and other what things that are considered essential. So they tell you your kids can't go to school, you got to homeschool, but you can't buy your kids craft stuff. You can't buy things for your kids who are stuck at home. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
I can't figure out the rationale behind most of it personally, but
Yeah. Well, the list of essential services is pretty broad from in Alabama, so covers a lot of things. So,
that's good. So you're kind of remotely located, aren't you? You're on some acreage, so you're hidden away a bit, right?
yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm on a 320 something acres or something like that.
Well, that's
Yeah,
plenty.
so we're kind of off. But you think, and our county was one of the last counties to actually have a confirmed case of the virus. But it turns out it hit a whole lot closer to home than it has for most people. Because my brother-in-law, who lives about 30 miles away, got diagnosed with COVID-19, and
Oh wow.
he's not doing well at all. He's in the hospital in intensive care right now. It's kind of a touch and go for him. But
We
they have put him on the malaria drug. I can't say the problem.
hydroxycola, whatever the
Yeah,
whatever the one the reporters are complaining about right now.
that's right. The ones they hope don't work.
Right, right. Because you can't. That's a perfect point right there. There used to be memes joking around that if Trump cured cancer, they demand the right to cancer, and they're almost proving that meme to be correct, arguing against these drugs that are helping people just because he's the one pushing them. It's insane.
That's right. I mean, yeah. Let's hope, at least hope they work. You know, I don't understand. But anyway, he's on that drug, and he took a. I get they just started him on it, but he's had it for a little over a week. He took a pretty bad downturn last Friday. He was actually at home, and they had to take him to the hospital. And ever since, they've been having to increase his oxygen. But so he's having a pretty rough go, and it's pretty tough on my sister. She's being quarantined now, and her youngest son is being quarantined with her. But they can't see him, so it's a pretty tough thing emotionally and physically.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask how the rest of his household was doing. You would think if it was in the house and it's as easy to spread as they think that it would be everybody in the house.
Yeah, they were kind of self isolating him a little separate from everybody else.
Oh, he had
Once he started
symptoms.
feeling bad, well, he started running a fever. We don't know where he got it from. He was one of the first ones in the county to actually get confirmed, but we don't know exactly where he got it from. Probably from work. And once he started feeling bad, started running a little fever, he stayed home.
Right.
And he worked from home. He's a engineer in one of the mills, and it just went downhill for him. So right now they're not running any symptoms, but of course they're in a quarantine for 14 days.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
What was his, just for the rest of us, if we was to start, feeling something going on, what was the first clue? Was it a fever by itself, or what was his
Well,
initial onset?
I didn't really talk to him about it because when they first told me, oh, he's feeling a little bad, so he's staying home from work. So I didn't think a whole lot of it really because there wasn't any of it around here, and it wasn't any of it in the adjacent counties uh, for a good long time. And then on Thursday, which the test was that they're giving down here were taking like 10 days to get results. And they called on Thursday, say, hey, he's got it. And then I started really paying more attention to it.
Oh yeah.
So he's aching all over. He's had diarrhea, uh, aches all over, running fever, shortness of breath. Uh, they started him on. They actually brought him an oxygen machine to his house on Thursday night, but his oxygen levels continue to drop. Put him in a hospital. Started on 6 liters of oxygen, whatever that means. But they've had to steadily increase it to 40 liters. So he's having a pretty tough go of it.
Yeah.
And he's one of those damn Yankees from up north. Ones that come down south and don't go back.
Right. Well, being in Alabama, he would be a halfback, right? Because then you go all the way to Florida, then you come halfway back.
Yeah, that's interesting. He's a pretty good guy, though. He's a pretty good sport.
Well, we'll be praying for him.
Well, I appreciate that.
So obviously you've got a first-hand encounter with this. For you, it's not just Facebook posts and deranged media stories. Your life sort of revolves around preparedness for certain things, and that's definitely what your books are about. They may not necessarily be pandemic books, but how does what the characters in your books, if somebody read your books and if somebody was not involved in the preparedness community at all and they read your books, what takeaways could they get that could come in effect with what we're seeing today?
Well, if they've read the books and paid attention to what was inside, then they wouldn't be panicking right now. That's for sure. Panic caused bad decisions, irrational decisions, and in a really tough situation, which we're in a tough situation, but not a really really bad situation right now. Panic can get you seriously hurt. But yeah, just preparedness in general. Have some supplies on hand. I was kidding with somebody the other day. I haven't bought toilet paper in a couple of months. Once all this stuff started happening, I didn't buy any because I knew other people were going to be buying it, and I had a roll from 15 years ago. I stored away. I might better check the expiration date. Surely nobody's used it. Write it back up.
Yeah.
but, but yeah, there's when you prepare the way I see it anyway. You prepare yourself for difficult times, regardless of what those times are. If you're preparing for a specific event only, then I think you could have some hoes in there.
Exactly. That's why I joke about zombie apocalypses all the time, because if you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse, you're pretty much prepared for anything.
Well, sometimes I read some of the books, and I really like John's uh, Z books. In fact, some of my favorites. But at
That's
least
that's
they're not
W.J. Lundy for
super
you folks that
smart.
might not get John. I was just saying that's W.J. Lundy for the folks that might not understand who John is, but
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry,
it's the inside name. But
the Z guy.
yeah, there you go. Um, so in your little spread you've got there 300 something acres. Do you have a means of there's only so much stuff you can store if there's some kind of big event. Do you have a means of production for anything?
Yeah, we've got some livestock, and I got farm uh, acreage available there too. I'm not much of a farmer though. I don't have time to really farm. My dad grows enough for I guess, the whole community really. He's 80 something years old, and he's been growing a garden for the last 100 years. no, no, he's been growing a garden ever since I was uh, ever since I can remember.
That's good having
I
roots in it.
big
You've
garden.
got the inside track there. You're not just randomly googling and ordering some seeds online, throwing them in the dirt and hoping it happens. You got the generations of knowledge there to help it all
Yeah,
actually pan out.
yeah. I don't think he. I think he may buy some corn seeds because there's a type of corn that he likes that's a hybrid. Um, but most everything else, he hasn't bought seeds probably 25 years.
That's where the work is right there, harvesting your own seeds.
Yeah, he
That's
he'll he grows a lot of watermelons, and he'll get if he opens one up and it's really sweet, it's really big. He saves all those seeds, and
oh yeah.
he's probably 10 year supply of seeds.
Yeah, my wife she buys heirloom seeds so that if she needs to, she can carry those seeds over into the next year. Because a lot of the hybrid stuff doesn't reproduce true to the parent. So, but the heirloom stuff does. So she does that, and we've got the chickens and the cows and that kind of thing. Got a fish pond. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
and,
that's kind of something like
I'd
that.
imagine you've also probably got kind of different levels of food storage. You've got the stuff that you can run in the pantry and grab that's the extras, and then different kinds of deep storage. Depending on how far you got to dig into things.
Yeah, yeah. Right now we're working out of the pantry, and you know we're doing good. We're doing all right. And a good thing is I just had a cow and two pigs butchered at the end of last year. So
Oh, you're good.
yeah, we're good. we
I'm,
got we got plenty of bacon right now.
we're still eating on the cow we had butchered this time last year, and and
Yeah, I bought some extra boxes of hamburger helper because we got a lot of hamburger.
there you go. Yeah, man, that's the way to go right there. Get your steak for like $2 a pound.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's what you pay to get it cut up. I probably it costs more than that time you raised them out.
Yeah, yeah. That still beats the $15 a pound at the grocery
Oh
store,
yeah,
though.
that's right. And everything I had, including my pigs, was all grass fed. Now I gave them a little bit of feed, but my pigs they ran on with my other animals on a 15-acre uh, area, and that's what they ate, what they found pretty much, and they done really well. They done really well.
Live like a true pig. Eat what you find.
That's right. I think they may have eaten some of my baby sheep at one time too.
Oh, dang!
Yeah.
Got your own coyotes,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, my last one, I know I had this year actually. I had some lambs born, and I had one I thought was born, and then I saw the one pig. I had one pig butchered in January, and I saw it eating on something, and I didn't recognize what it was. And then later I went out couldn't find that lamb. I said, well, that's where it went.
Yep. And we used to raise sheep, and the coyotes found them, and that's why we have cows. But I miss sheep. One of these days, we're gonna refence this place and get some good LGDs and go back to sheep. Just especially in an event like this. Let's say today I have cows, right? So if this ended up being a prolonged thing where we couldn't get protein, butchering a cow yourself and then processing all that and storing it's kind of a daunting task, you know.
Yes, it is.
Whereas the sheep, it's easy, you know. We always, when we had sheep, I always butchered those myself. You know, it always worked out great. It's just enough to handle, and you know, all you need is one like stand up, you know, refrigerator, stand up freezer, and it'll hold, you know, to age it in. And we took a stand up fridge and took all the shelves out and just made a little rack in it to hang them in, kind of like you'd have at a butcher shop. Sheep are just so much easier, and it's a more rational quantity of food to deal with. So I'd like to go back to that eventually.
Yeah, I have. We've had a lot of coyote problems too. Until I got a donkey, put them out in the pasture, and I haven't had a coyote problem, but I've had a donkey problem.
We've got 4. Just don't ever get a girl donkey, because then your coyotes will come right back. As soon as we had 2 jacks, and as soon as we threw a female in the mix, that they stopped worrying about the coyotes. They stopped protecting the sheep. It was all about donkeys, you know. And to this day, there's a separate donkey herd, and they don't care about any of the rest of the animals anymore. If it's just jacks or just jennies, and they can't have their own little family, their own little herd, then they herd up with whatever else you've got. But
Yeah,
if they've got their own family, it's over. The coyotes are right back.
yeah. I've just got the one jack, and he's done good. He's kept the coyotes out for the most part, but he's been awful rough on my cows, biting their ears and stuff. It
Really?
was. I got them separated right now to kind of give them a little relief.
Well, the cows don't need it so much. You know, that's more your sheep need the donkey more than
Yeah,
the cows do. Our cow, we've never had a problem with coyotes with cows, but they're a little more intimidating than a sheep. So, with Heritage Life Skills canceled this year, and that was a big bummer. You know, I was hoping to see all you guys again. Were you planning on going to that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I hope I go to every one that she has in the future. I enjoyed it. Actually, I want to take some of the classes. I didn't get to take any classes the last few times I went, but I got some good content. A lot of good people there. It's great meeting everybody, talking with them, and you know, you guys too. That's been great.
Oh, it's like a reunion every time too. Not just with us, but with the folks that come in. You know, they're all regulars. They all come to all the events. They come to everything that Jan and that Bill put on. And you know, they come through, and you're like, "Hey, how's it been?" You know, and then they're scanning to see if any of your books, you know, they haven't read yet, and those little pictures of their
Right.
bookshelf so they can remember. And it's like a big reunion every time. I really have a good time with that. It hopefully they can put something on later in the year, if you know, if we can pull out of all this insanity. Cause
Yeah, that'd be good. Maybe in the fall or something.
yeah,
That'd be good.
so I'd hate to miss that one. That was a good one. Good folks too. I mean, you can't beat the folks over there in North Carolina. Really
No, yeah,
appreciate
they
them.
were the first ones to give me a chance of putting my books in the store. So I mean, I really that means a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. Franklin introduced us, and I talked with Jan, and she put my books in there, and I thought, man, wow. So a
Spe-
special place, special people.
Speaking of those folks over there, I've got my old Grouch's military surplus T-shirt on right now. I know you're familiar with those folks from all the HLS events. There's good people.
Yeah, that's right.
But, yeah, that's North Carolina's like my second home. Just popping over the mountains. Um, so what do you have in store for the future? Like how many books do you have out total right now?
Well, I've got 3 right now, and I'm gonna get off my hiney and finish this 4th one, which is a continuation of this last 3. I don't know, I'm close to halfway through with it, but I kind of got sidetracked on some other projects. So I'm going to get back on it and get it finished.
Yeah, you and I kind of have the same disease. You know, we've got very all-consuming lives. And I just can't keep up with the other writers either. People will be hounding me for following books for a long time, and after a while, I start feeling bad. Like, man, I can't believe I haven't put that out yet. But it's just a lot going on, living the life, not just writing about it, and that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, when I wrote my books, uh, I kind of wrote it as a, I don't know, maybe a, I hate to say a guide, but really it was kind of a guide for me. Some of it was some things I was doing, some of it is some things I was planning on doing, and so I'm working some of that as I go along. So that's taking a lot of time.
It's funny that you say a guide for you. That's basically exactly what my first book was, The Last Layover. At the time I wrote that, we had, you know, 5 little acres right on the edge of the city of Knoxville, and I wrote about Evan and Molly and their little East Tennessee homestead, and I've basically evolved into those people, or Monica and I
Right.
have, now we're on our own home front, you could say, and kind of living vicariously through the lives of those characters. And like you said, basically, even if I didn't realize I was doing it, I was basically writing a how-to guide for myself.
Right.
And
Right.
I've evolved kind of with those characters because of that. It was
Yeah.
a great experience. And so I know I noticed some people today online bugging you. Where's book 4? So do you have any sort of random time estimate for those folks? Or I know I hate giving out numbers because it's hard for me to nail anything down.
Yeah. I've given out time frames and I've missed all of them, but I'm pretty confident I'll have it out by this fall. Uh, my wife's even been asking after me to get it done, so and that's unusual.
She wants that book revenue,
I think that maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, she's
We're
like,
getting rich off of it. I can
we
tell
need,
you that.
it's like we need that new release bump, that little wave you ride when a new book comes out.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But so you obviously do a lot of shooting. You and I actually have a lot of stuff in common. We both got livestock. We both kind of live out in the middle of nowhere. We're both avid shooters. I've got my own little shooting range. You've that range that you post pictures of. Is that on your property?
Yeah. Yeah. It's inside that 300 something. So it's an old abandoned gravel pit. It's got walls on all the way around except for where the water drains out on one side and a little entry road, which actually comes down a ramp. So it's a great place to shoot. And we do a lot of shooting. We do a lot of training there too. I get a lot of folks out there, and we do a lot of shooting.
Yeah, you've got a lot of certifications lately too, haven't you?
Yeah, I've gotten got my NRA certification and been to I don't know probably I don't know 10 or I'd have to look it up 10 or 12 shooting classes, professional classes. So it's been great. I mean, I've learned a lot. I really you don't really know what you don't know until you go somewhere where they know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
And then I've been telling everybody wrong all these years.
do you do any competitive shooting?
No, I haven't done any competitive shooting.
I used to do IDPA's, International Defensive Pistol Association stuff, and I really like that. I like that versus the IPSC stuff because the IPSC was just a race. It was like training to, no offense to people that shoot IPSC, but it was like training to be an active shooter. Just run and shoot as many body targets as you can, without any thought to tactics. Whereas IDPA's were concealed carry scenario based, self defense scenario based, and those events, I recommend them highly to anybody. You may have a stage where you start off literally laying in a bed and your gun is in the nightstand and there's a door in the, you're in an outside shooting pit, but they got all the props set up. And when the stage starts, you may have to go for the nightstand to get the gun and head for the door. And when you open the door, it pulls a cord and that activates the first active target. And you may be at a gas station, at a gas pump. We had one where there's fake gas pumps and there was an ATM card stuck in the gas pump. And you're supposed to start with your hand on the card like you're swiping the card when the gas station gets robbed. Those are amazing events. So doing the stuff that you're doing where you're honing your skills, and then you go do something like that where you put them into scenarios that you aren't in control of. Somebody else is putting them together. That really helps build that muscle memory and kind of puts it all together.
Oh, man, that would be great.
Yeah, you ought to
Yeah,
look that up.
that
They're all over the
yeah,
place.
I will. I will.
Yeah, IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association, and I believe Bill Wilson from Wilson Combat. I believe he's the guy that founded it.
Okay.
And it's all stock guns. There's no laser guns with the the big optics, and all the crazy add-on stuff. It has to be essentially a concealed carry gun, and you have to wear it concealed. It has to be under a concealment garment, for the
Okay.
events, because it's real world training. But it's good stuff. So take what you're doing, add to that, and you go a long way with it. Yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
I think I will.
Yeah,
I'll do that. I'll do that.
we do a lot of training out at my place too. For our church has a security team, so we use my outdoor range for the training, because prior to me getting involved, they were kind of stuck using the indoor commercial ranges. And, you pick the gun off the table in front of you, and you're not allowed to move. That's
Right.
that's not really very realistic training. You need to do concealed carry, holster work, and drills, and malfunction training, and low light scenarios, and just all that kind of stuff that you just can't do in a range. So anybody that is plans on defending themselves with a firearm should things get bad need to go a little bit beyond that first box of ammo at the indoor range and then put it in the closet. And the stuff that you're doing, I know for a fact that you're ready.
Yeah. 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 You really need to do some. I'm gonna say maybe scenario based stuff. That helps, but you need to have some good guys and some bad guys out there that when you're shooting, so you make sure you don't hit the good guys. So I mean, there's a lot.
Shoot, no shoot decision making stuff.
Right,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then yeah, it's. I mean, there's so much you can do with that to try to prepare yourself to be a better shooter and to make better decisions. And you're not going to be any better in a real life situation than you are on your best training day. So if your best training day is, standing up, picking a gun off the table and shooting at the target, uh, you're not going to be any better than that. So if you're going to have to move and people are running around in front of you and screaming and hollering, and you're under a lot of stress, you just got to think you're never going to be any better than your best training day. So
That's a very good point, a good motto, and I'd like to add to that also not just the confusion of the scenario, but also the aspect of considering cover or cover and
yeah,
concealment. How often do people shoot leaning out around an obstacle while using that obstacle as a barrier from potential hostile fire? The cardboard targets don't shoot back, but if you don't train like they could shoot back and keep that kind of stuff in your mind, you're going to walk right in front of a window. You're going to walk right in front of an open door. You're going to expose yourself at a time that you shouldn't, because you've never trained like that. You never thought about it.
that's right.
And if you've not been involved in something else in your life where that's kind of been beat into your head, you kind of got to train yourself to think that way. But and you
That's
bring
right.
family members into your training too, don't you? You got kind of your whole group in there.
Yeah, my son is really active in it, and his girlfriend is really active. And I get my brother and my nephew over sometimes. I haven't been able to get my wife involved in it very much. Maybe you could talk to her.
Yeah, they never listen to their own husband.
No, but she might listen to you because you're that very nice young man.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I don't.
You're not
I'm
that
thinking to
young
myself,
either.
I don't think he's that young.
No, I got the gray. It's showing. Um, but she's got me all wrong. I'm telling you. No, I was kidding. Um,
Yeah, we can. I guess you know when you came to Carolina Readiness that first time we were there, she was there, but then she didn't come back to the HLS meeting that year, and she was talking about who all we met, and I was explaining, and I was explaining who you were, and oh, you mean that nice young man we met? I thought, okay, better keep you away from Stephen.
oh, see, it's good to build somebody's ego. Somebody seeing them as a threat, right? um, but yeah, so that's good. You're living the life. You've got your place. You've got your food supply. You've got a way to defend it, bringing other people into it, and I think that's what a lot of our books are about. You
That's
know,
right.
if I go back and I read, whether it's Franklin Horton or whoever, uh, a lot of our books are that theme. It's not just like one preparedness guy all on his own. He ends up pulling in from multiple resources. So sounds like you're truly living the life that you write about.
Well, it makes it easier to write. At least
Yeah,
it does for me.
yeah. You picture it all in your head.
Yeah.
So let's run through a few questions here that people have posed for you. Obviously, we've already hit the "Where is book 4" question, so I think you've answered that one. And here's my favorite question from Bruce Herder. Jeff, how do you stack up against the Renaissance man that is Stephen Bird? Must be so.
We were just talking
Yeah,
about that. I got to keep my wife separated. That's the only thing I can tell you.
it must be somewhat intimidating. Or do you have strengths? Or do your strengths lie in other areas? Or he's got no shortcomings, folks. He's the real deal,
Uh,
and he's living the life. He just might not post about it as much online as I do, is all. Man, you're gonna have to write some. 'Cause here's another one from Robin Warren. When is your next book due out? Thanks. People are beating your door down, man. You need to get on the stick.
yeah, I know it. I got to do it. I got to do it. There's some. I got to tell you, there's gonna be some twists and turns in it. Everything that you read in the last three, some of it's not as it seems.
Well, good. And you posed a little thought earlier. Anybody want to know about Jack? And several folks chimed in. Suzanne Cousins, she said, Jeff Motes, yes, always. I'm convinced Jack is going to survive and make a reappearance. And then Lori Smith said, Jack will be back. Have faith. And then Diana May said, so many questions about Jack, and definitely want to know when another book will come out. So, who's Jack?
Well, Jack is one of the main characters in the first book that kind of disappears pretty quick from the storyline. But he's a very important character in the book, and once you understand the meaning of Jack in the book, because he doesn't show back up actually in the first book at all, but you do see his wife at the end of the book. But once you grasp and understand the meaning of his character and the purpose of his character, it'll sink. I mean, it's just going to sink in really good. And you can only experience it if I don't tell you. If I tell you, you can't experience it, because everybody asking these questions about Jack, because I've gotten lots and lots of questions, but I even got a couple of negative reviews because, hey, he just fell out of the storyline. It's because that's what I'm wanting you to do, is to wonder about Jack. His whole purpose of his characters is to make you wonder.
Yeah, you can't answer all the questions. There'd be no story.
Well, I mean, I would like to answer it. If you've read that book, if you read the book and you really want to know about Jack, then there's probably people going to listen to this who hasn't read it. So I don't want to deny them the opportunity to get what that character is intended to do. But if people want to, I set up a discussion on Jack a little while back, and I can open it back up where I explain Jack's character. But you can only experience it one time, and once that, it's kind of like I went to a firearms training class, tactical response, and one of the drills was a brilliant drill, but it's nothing you can practice. Once you've done it one time, there is no more doing it again. Let me. Hello.
Sorry about
You got.
that's my stupid landline in the background.
That's no problem. Once you experience them once, you can't repeat them. You can't train them. It can only happen once.
Yeah.
But,
Kill that. I was gonna go to voicemail, but I just got tired of hearing it. But Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying about that. You know, and I've had the same kind of thing. I have people write reviews because I didn't answer a question they wanted to answer. I left something. Sometimes there's things that I may not have any plan to revisit later, but I still leave a little mystery there. And goodness gracious, and part of that is because you ever watched an M Night Shyamalan movie? Are you familiar with him?
Who's that?
M Night Shyamalan. He
Oh yes, yes,
did the Village and a few other things,
right.
and he also did Signs, the alien movie that Mel Gibson was in. If you think about his movies, he doesn't show you the monster. He lets you paint the image of the monster in your own mind, right?
That's right. That's
You
right.
see a reflection in the TV. You see fingers under the door. In the Village, his movie The Village, you never saw the monster, but he had convinced you of of exactly what it looked like, and it was probably a whole lot more dramatic because your own mind was painting the picture. And that's why
That's right.
everybody says the book was better than the movie. Well, I think the same thing needs to happen in the book too, though. You can't, if you describe everything in detail and you answer all the questions, it takes away the reader's ability to paint some of that scene for themselves, especially the mysteries. You know,
Right.
so leaving little things hanging like that are good. And then later on, if it does come back to something else, like you were saying, bam, they didn't see that coming. And if you don't have those little light bulbs able to go off every now and then, that'd take a lot of the emotional roller coaster out of the story.
That's right. That's right.
Um, Franklin, speaking of the devil, asked, a lot of our books are influenced in different day jobs we've had over the years. How has your career impacted what you write about? Now, obviously, you're into the electrical business. Did does that show you certain? Do you see weaknesses that maybe your average person wouldn't see that would make the EMP kind of more of a threat to you from your understanding of things than maybe your average person might see it?
Well, I'm thinking maybe it might show me that it's not quite as much a threat as the average person might think it is. I think my work, I've worked in a lot of different fields. I worked for water systems, sewer systems, power plants, power line distribution lines, wood products, paper products, uh, chemical plants, lots of commercial projects. I've been doing it since I was, I don't know, 13 years old. My dad started his business. I was working with him. So I've seen a lot of stuff, and it's particularly in our area. I know where a lot of the older stuff is at, the older systems that are still available to work. Uh, so it's probably put in my mind that if the EMP happens here and the power goes off over here, I bet you I could go over there, rob some parts from over there, come back over here, and maybe get this other system up and running. So from that standpoint, yeah, it's influenced me because I mean, I've been thinking in our own community, if the water system goes down, what are we going to do to power the water system? How are we going to get them back operating? Because most of them now are computer controlled,
Yeah,
whereas not that long ago they were analog control, which was still electronics, but not as much electronics.
right.
So, a lot of those thoughts have gone through my head. I think about our own water system in Jackson. It's a new plant. I say new. It's less than 10 years old. All computerized, all automatic controls, and the generator. They put in a huge generator to run the plant, and it's all computer controlled. And they had a problem with it a couple of years ago, and they called me down there. And we was trying to get it up and running, and the breaker itself that turned the thing on and off was all computer programmed, which I didn't have the software or the cable to hook to it. So I'm telling you, I can't turn it on for you. You got these. Somebody's got to come with the software and the cord to get into this thing, which they did. They had to come. The generator people came out and we talked about it. I said, If I don't have the software, which I don't have, I can't help you with it.
And
But
those generator people aren't.
it,
Turn your volume down just a little bit.
Turn my volume down.
Yeah. I'm all of a sudden getting feedback.
Okay. Let's see. Let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. I was about to click the wrong thing. Turn my speaker down. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Okay, that fixed it.
Okay.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
I think there was just too much coming back through. But yeah, so anyway,
Okay.
that company, the generator company, wouldn't show up in some major crisis. Like they'd likely be dealing with other things. So having those kind of systems are definitely something to think about. And having a guy like you in town would be handy that's already thought it all out. Oh, there you go. That's much better. Stick your earbuds in.
Well, I've got some ideas, and that's all they are is ideas. They might not work. Wouldn't know, but
Hey, at least somebody's thinking ahead of time. You kind of got a plan going. Every neighborhood needs a guy like that. And Lisa asks, "Are you always so quiet? Do you ever yell or get angry? Do you smoke reefer to stay that calm? Tell me, what is your secret? It's just CBD oil. You don't get high from it, right? It just mellows you out."
hey, I took my first puff of a cigarette when I was 5 years old. I took my second puff of a cigarette when I was 5 years old, and that's the last puff I ever made. I got sick as a dog. My grandmother from Louisiana, and she was truly a Cajun. I mean, they even spoke the French, the Cajun French language. But anyway, she had me throw her cigarette butt out, and I got it. I went outside, looked around. There wasn't anybody looking, so I took me a puff on it, and I thought I was gonna throw up.
Yeah.
The next day, she asked me to do the same thing, and I tried it again. And I said, "That's it. Never again."
Why do you do this?
So that was a good thing. I'm glad she got me to do it.
No, I have a better idea as to why you're calm and not angry. Inner peace, and from your beliefs, and your loyalty to that, and your devotion to that, I should say, rather, not loyalty. Um, we very often handle situations wrongly when we don't ground ourselves in the things we should ground ourselves in, and I think you're about as well grounded of a fellow as I know.
Well, I make a lot of mistakes. I try to do right, but I don't always do so.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, but
Right.
but I have a strong suspicion as to why you're so centered.
Well, I
um,
appreciate that.
and Boyd, we kind of somewhat answered this question already. How much shooting do you do, and do you reload?
I used to reload years ago when the only shooting I did was picking up my pistol off the table and shooting at a paper target. And I was shooting 357s and I was reloading my hunting rounds as well. But I didn't do a lot of shooting. Now I shoot thousands of rounds every year, so no, I don't try to reload that. I don't have the time to do that.
Yeah, and now, I know back when I first started shooting IDPA's, the mail order bulk, the 1,000 rounds of 45 ACP and 9mm, they weren't as easy to come by as it is today. Well, until last month, I should say. So back then, when I did that, a lot of us reloaded. Because if the amount of rounds that you went through, if you bought them, full retail price, a box at a time at the gun store, you'd go broke.
Oh yeah, it was
You'd
pretty
go
high.
broke. But lately, if you could get 1,000 rounds of, like I said last month, if you could get 1,000 rounds of 9mm for $169, that's
Right.
not much more than reloading them. Saves you a lot of trouble. So these lately, there's not been as much need to do that. I still reload the oddballs. I reload
Right.
45-70 for sharps because you can't buy sharps loads, because if somebody put a sharps load in a lever gun, it'd blow up. So you
Right.
can't buy it. Um, that, and like you said, stuff like 357s, 45 Colt, reload that because it costs staggeringly expensive if you don't.
That's right.
Um, all those oddball type rounds I reload. Um, and but the stuff I can buy cheap in bulk, 223, I ain't gonna waste my time with that. you know?
Yeah, I mean, when you go shoot, like I said, we shoot thousands of rounds of 9 millimeter and 223 every year. So I try to find the cheapest stuff, if we just practicing. Now, if I was going to do some hunting with it, which I don't really hunt other than the coyotes with it, but yeah, I might would reload. But I haven't reloaded in a long time.
But you got the capability there should you need to.
Yeah, I've got the equipment. I don't have all the powder and the rounds for the 9 and the 357. I mean 223 in bulk, but I still got my 357 stuff and my 270 and my 30-06 and those kinds of things. So yeah.
Yeah, and I reload 30-06 specifically for Garand, because the Garands were meant for a totally different animal of 30-06 than you're getting off the shelf today. So yeah, all that oddball stuff especially. Um, John WJ Lundy, he asked a very good question. It's kind of a two-part question, and this might go along with your professional expertise as well. He said, first off, where do you see PA fiction in 10 years? And then second, what will be the next hot event once EMP has been ruled out by technology? Now, what exactly does he mean by once EMP is ruled out by technology? I know there's certain things that you can get EMP hardened. My Solark 12K I just bought from Scott Hunt is EMP hardened, and that was a custom order from the factory. Um, what exactly does he mean by once EMP is ruled out by technology?
Well, that could be. I mean, I guess that's what he's talking about. Once
Just
the technology
is it
of the
future stuff
new
or is?
equipment that's being
Sorry, go ahead.
well, once the uh, once the equipment is being made when it's manufactured and is being made hardened, I guess it'd be less susceptible to an EMP. But I tell you one thing that's always sticking out there is economic problems and political problems. So
That's the true zombie
geopolitical and
apocalypse.
socio-economical. I mean, yes, I mean those are out there, and it just looks to me like we're getting closer and closer to the edge of both of those potential scenarios every day.
Oh
It
yeah,
doesn't matter who the president is, we're just getting closer and closer.
yeah. Look where we are today.
I know it's
we're,
insane.
we're dealing with a virus. This is something that affects us all, regardless of what our political viewpoints are, regardless of what our worldview is, regardless of who we planned on voting for in November. It affects us regardless. And it's so how if we can't come together on something like that, how's our future even remotely stable? It's our world is using this, especially here in the states. It's been driving me nuts on social media lately. There's so many people just frothing at the mouth with political hatred for a virus. You can't get less of a political topic than that, unless, of course, it's weaponized. That's a different kind of foreign relations politics. But as far as our internal politics goes, if nobody here caused it, it should not be a political thing. And here we are completely tearing ourselves apart and attempting to tear ourselves apart over it. Just like we argued in the beginning, or discussed in the beginning, people arguing over a drug that has been proven to work just because they don't want it to work. They don't want any success. you know, how can we possibly have much of a future? So most of my fears kind of is exactly what you just said. It's that. It's the political stuff. It's the economic crisis that will stem from it.
Yes, and just the vitriol in the country is just so great, and people are diverging so far. It's just it's really scary times. I really concerned for my kids and my grandkids. Could be some tough times.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I know a lot of preppers. They talk about the different kind of things that they prepare for. and one of the terms you hear a lot is correction event. I know you've heard that one before,
Yeah.
or because people see the fabric of the nation being torn wide open by intentionally divisive and misleading politics, and the media machine that's associated with it, and they say, well, the only way to fix this is some sort of correction event. Which is true to a point, but at the same time, whatever the event is going to be capitalized on by politics. So, like this
Yeah,
very
and I don't,
thing.
it depends on what kind of correction it is. It's not going to be pleasant.
No.
And I think back on the Balkans when you seen Yugoslavia break up like they did, and there was a movie called Savior. Dennis Quaid starred in that movie, and it was about that Balkan conflict. And if you want to have an idea of what uh, a civil war, a protracted civil war might look like in a modern country, you ought to watch that movie. And
That was the
it,
savior.
yeah, Savior. That's the name of it, Savior. Dennis Quaid. He was an American uh, intelligence agent, and he ended up becoming a French Foreign Legion. But it's a very hard movie. It's a very tough movie to watch. So if you watch it, just be prepared. It's a tough thing to watch, but I think it's probably a pretty good picture of when neighbors are pitted against neighbors. And at the time you had the Serbs, you had the uh, Croatians, and you had the Bosnians, and they were all fighting and killing each other. It was just terrible time, and we don't want that over here. We
No.
really don't.
No, and if you think about all throughout human history, right now, obviously there's people like your brother-in-law who are actually sick and battling this, but for the most part, this could be. I'm not saying it is. Don't throw stones at me, folks. I'm saying this could be a big farce, and most of us wouldn't know because we're not directly affected like you are, right? So you're directly affected, but majority of the people in the country are not, unless they're in one of the hot spots. But we see about it and we're told about it.
Right.
But the inconvenience that most people are facing is that they can't go to the movies, they can't go eat at the restaurant, they can't go to work if they're non-essential and their business is closed. But the inconveniences that all the generations prior to us and all throughout the history of humanity was bodies in the streets types of events. The Black Plagues and the Civil Wars and the conquest ethic that went on forever. We have been massively sheltered from any of that kind of thing, and so for us to like you just mentioned with the Balkans, what a correction event would really look like. Cause I don't think most people are prepared for that.
No, if they watch that movie, they're gonna really hope it never happens here.
Yeah, and our own Civil War is so far removed from our minds. It's people
No,
people can't even relate to that anymore. But that was an ugly time.
that was yeah, it was. It really was, especially for the people in the South where it was all fought. Um, Regardless of what you think about the reasons for the war, it was a tough situation for those that were in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, in those situations too, you can't blame a guy because of what color uniform he wore. It's just like
That's right.
today. It's just like today. If we had a civil war today, people would blindly follow the team that they think they most align with, and that's usually because of sales pitches, not because of actual aligned values. you know.
Well, yeah, and in some cases it may be out of necessity. You don't have a choice.
Oh
You know.
yeah. So that's it for the question. So we can expect book 4 from you by next month. That's what you said?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see. What day in next month? The 32nd.
The
30.
32nd of next month. As soon as the
Yeah,
32nd comes, folks, you're gonna have that book. Mark it on your
that's right.
calendar.
And if
Um,
and if it's not ready on the 32nd, I'm going to give it away for free.
Well, folks, sorry for all the doom and gloom, but this is about as open and honest of a discussion as you can have. There's a lot of things aren't really laughable topics, and that's what we're facing today. And you know, he, Jeff helps us bring the point home of what we're all seeing on the news. He's living through it. He's got family members involved with it, so it's a real event. And I'm glad. Thank him for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
So
You know, are we overreacting as a country? I don't know. Maybe we are. Is it a man-made thing? Maybe it is. I don't know. But it is a real thing, and it is impacting some people. Even though it's impacting my brother-in-law severely. He's a small number, comparison to the rest of the country. But it is a real thing, and it's made me think think about it a good bit differently as well. This guy's in his early 50s. He was a triathlon athlete for well up into his 40s, and now he's on a touch and go kind of basis. So it's pretty scary what it can be.
yeah. Yeah, and you don't even know what to expect because there's so many stories of folks who get it and it's like a mild cold and they move on from it, and other people just totally wipes them out. So you don't even know what to expect, and I think that's one of the things that confuses people the most about it. There's not a set course to run through. You don't know how you're personally going to react to it if you're exposed, and that's kind of spooky.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Well, got anything you want to add before we sign off? I think we've touched on all the bases here, but we're definitely looking forward to the next thing from you, and hope maybe there'll be some folks commenting on this video, poking at you a little harder, and we can actually get it pulled out of you.
Yeah. Well, okay, but I know we're in some trying times right now, but there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
Uh, there's going to be another side to this. So, if there's some people, getting really upset or panicking, don't do that. Just we got to get through it. It's going to be another day. Uh, so just hang in there.
Yeah.
And if you'll read these guys' books, Stevens and Boyd's and Ryan's and everybody in the DD12, and then there's a lot of other good books too. If you'll read them and take little nuggets from them, and you'll probably find some useful stuff there.
Spend some time reading books instead of reading online articles meant to scare you and divide us, right?
Right. Yep.
A lot of people need to just unplug, wouldn't be panicking if they weren't told to panic. Just live your life, live what's in front of you, right there, what you got to deal with, the reality of it. And some people's reality is a little harsher than others at the moment, but there's no reason to get all worked up and panicked just because a media source makes money telling you to get worked up and panic.
Or they get, look at their viewership now. It's through the roof. So, the more they can sell it, the more readers and viewers they get. But one thing I've always tried to think like this is that, do the best you can with the best you have to live, help those around you live. And if you've done all that, there's no need to worry about anything else because you've done everything that you can do.
Right.
So, I think that's what God expects us to do is the best we can with the best we have. And if we fulfill that, we still may be in some difficult situations, but as long as we've done our part, then I feel good about it.
Yeah, I've been kind of all consumed in that solar project I've been working on, and once I got that done, I kind of had this, okay, now you got all this extra time on your hands because my boss isn't traveling right now for obvious reasons, so I'm not doing much flying. And so I've had the urge. Now what can you do? Outside of my own little world here. So I got a hold of one of the guys from our church last night, and it's like, hey, what do you guys need help with? I got time on my hands. What can I do? And supposed to be getting up with them here after Easter to accomplish some things. So yeah, if you're sitting around and do the best you can for yourself, and once you've done that, do for somebody else. Be a positive light in this gloomy, media-driven world we live in. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess that's about it for tonight, folks. Thanks a lot, Jeff, for coming. Thanks
Yeah, I
for
enjoyed it. Thank you.
humoring all of our questions and giving us some insight. Really appreciated your firsthand account. That really helps make it hit home for me. 'Cause I've personally not witnessed anything like that yet, and I appreciate that. And appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to spend it with us. And hope all you folks watching got something out of it. Harass him as best you can, and maybe we'll get that book pulled out of him.
Right.
Find it, because now I got to find out what happens to Jack. You know, you guys got
Yeah.
me. You guys got me curious. So,
Yeah. All right.
so, well, thanks again, and we'll be seeing you.
Okay.